Hi, I'm Mike Bernhardt for the Exascale Report. I'm here today with my guest, Thomas Thurston, CEO of Growth Science. Thomas, we just got back from your very interesting workshop known as Innovators Anonymous. What is the difference between the way executives typically make their decisions, these important decisions today, and what you were advocating through the workshop?
Good question, Mike. Typically when people make decisions, they use a descriptive approach. In other words, they think back and they remember and describe the past. And while that's okay, what we're really advocating is a prescriptive approach or a predictive approach, where it's not so much about looking at the past as it is trying to guess and map uncertainty in the future. Figure out how can we have better tools to predict what's happening. Now, different executives had different challenges. Some people were in HR and they're trying to predict who to hire. Other people were placing innovation bets and they want to know what company to buy or to invest in. But what tied all those things together is they were making predictions in times of uncertainty, and we were trying to help them with a framework to better do that using data. What's exciting and relevant about Exascale is the technologies for Exascale are going to be very different from the technologies using today. So if companies want to get a better understanding of not where technology is, but where it's going, they need to start thinking about Exascale now, so that they're planning for the future now instead of once it's already there.
So Thomas, I think there's a really interesting dynamic that I'm starting to recognize in the marketplace as we explore the topic of Exascale, how we're going to get there in the next 10 to 12 years. Some organizations that I look at that typically have been the research-focused organizations, the guys that would go out and build technology that they need, are now looking at trying to meet this national imperative of getting us to a certain point, right, by a certain date, and realizing that maybe they can't do it just by building. And so now those organizations, maybe for the first time in a very long time, are looking at build or buy decisions. And that seems to me an area in which growth science could probably branch out and help a lot of these organizations. Would that be right?
Yeah, I think of what the labs and a lot of these organizations are facing is a prediction problem. In other words, it's not often described that way, but they're trying to predict which technologies and trends are going to happen next. The interesting thing is companies will spend an enormous amount of money on bets, but they hardly ever spend any money on the models to predict which bets to make. And I think that's interesting. So what we would come to the perspective of, rather than investing millions or billions of dollars in one bet, why don't you find better ways to predict which are the right bets to make in the first place? If you can predict which technologies are going to emerge or have a highest likelihood of emerging, you know where to place your bets, rather than just sort of building and hoping that that ends up being the right answer. I think we also succeeded in giving them tools to make better predictions going forward. What I really think we should change for next year, though, is we had a lot of really big companies at this event, and that was the goal on the outset. But there was people expressed a need for wanting a little bit more diversity in the mix, and it came up that the challenges that big companies have aren't always the same as challenges that smaller or mid-sized companies have. So some of the feedback we took to heart is next year we want to invite not just big companies, but a lot of smaller and mid-sized companies as well, because they face different challenges, and we think that diversity would be really good for the groups.
Well, we'll look for some more information on that, and our readers can go to the Growth Science website and catch the latest information there, and probably some testimonials from the workshop, as I understand.
That's right, but they're all anonymous.
They're all anonymous, great. All right, for the Exascale Report, I'm Mike Bernhardt. Our guest today was Thomas Thurston, CEO of Growth Science.